welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an anime story podcast. I'm the Big Bad Rune right over here, I'm the Big Bad Moon right over here. On my right is Helen 3D, and just below me is Bad Strategy. We are your hosts today, and every day, of course, on an anime story. Helen, how you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Good.
I didn't have to wait in a crap ton of freaking traffic for the leafers because we took the back road. We had to go down to Denver today, and like the highway was bumper to bumper. They were saying like 4 hours for us to get home, so we went all the back roads. That was much better.
Nice. Yeah, it's really hot today.
It's miserable. We don't have AC, and even up here it's hot.
Yeah, Bad just got his AC installed.
Nice.
It makes me jealous. Bad, by the way, how you doing, Bad?
I am good, as I always am.
Of course.
It's not letting me host him.
Who's hosting who?
Do you have settings? I was gonna host you.
Oh, okay. So, Helen's probably working on... Oh, you're right. Oh, hang on. I was just informed that I still have a Hidoro picture up.
Hidoro!
I know! Hang on. We were rushed. By me. Because I was late. Believe that one. Boom. There we go. How's that? Perfect. Beautiful.
Excellent.
Yes, today we're talking about Assassination Classroom. We're talking about the first half of the first season. Anyway, first 12 episodes. Yeah, so I was gonna say though, you had a pretty good week, Helen?
Yeah, it was a good week.
Did you watch anything interesting?
I've been binge watching Lucifer.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. The first season was rough. Like you can feel like the actors weren't really sure what the story was. Like there was very technically I felt it was really hard to get through the first season. But then the second season and the third have just been beautiful.
Nice. That's awesome. And Bad, what have you been watching this week? I mean, I know some of the stuff
I watched anything. We didn't have internet.
That's
I couldn't
true.
watch.
Okay, yeah. So we moved. Me and Bad, we moved. We moved into a new apartment, and we didn't have internet for 5 days. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. But we just got internet this morning, and also the first day that we were moving, my phone just up and died. Didn't drop it. Didn't leave it in the sun. Nothing happened. It just died. It just stopped. It was like an $80 phone, so I'm not surprised by that. But it was really upsetting to not have the internet and then not have phone, and then be like, well, the Comcast guy's going to come on Saturday. Let's see if it works. Yes, so I also have not watched anything except, of course, Assassination Classroom, which we did have, which we are going to talk about. Assassination Classroom. So we'll just throw it out there. Thoughts, opening thoughts. Assassination Classroom. Anyone? Leave the floor open.
Some of the lines are so quotable. Like they're so good. I just really enjoyed. Like there were like snippets of it that I was just like, that's a fun one. What was the Rugrats calls them? He called them something like a room. I don't know. It was a RRR thing.
Right.
It was great.
That was interesting. Bad thoughts?
It is a. I don't know. It's a fun, lighthearted anime. It's comedy. I would classify it as a comedy.
That is fair. I don't think that's unreasonable.
I said, would you though?
Yeah. Okay. At least in the first half of the first season.
That's fair.
I think. I don't think the serious moments in the first half of the first season are serious enough for me to move away from that.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's fair.
And I don't know. I don't know. How long does it get super serious in the second half of the season?
It gets more serious towards the end of the second season.
Towards the end of the second season. Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you watched like the whole thing, huh?
I also think it takes a while for it to develop the characters. So like I feel like you have to watch like 2 seasons to get the more of the experience. Yeah, because like first half of the first season there's pretty sparse character development. Like they don't go deep into it, and you really have to go through. Because I remembered them developing a lot of characters, but not much of that happened in the first half of the first season.
I agree, and I also want to say that like, even though there wasn't character development, when they brought in the redhead kid, who's like murderous,
right?
Yeah.
I started enjoying it more because it was like he didn't fit in society, but this was kind of like a challenge and a niche for him. Yeah. And I feel like he develops into a better person. So it's kind of neat.
Okay.
It's neat.
So okay.
Well, he stands out as one of the most distinctive characters, and I think he stands out at a moment in the series when none of the other characters are really standing out. Most of the other characters are pretty samey. I think they're like, we could probably pick like 3 characters who pop out in the first season of the students, and they're like 30 students, so it's like most of them are kind of like background characters.
Right. Okay. So that being said, let's as after those initial thoughts, let's kind of recap and kind of collect the whole thing and talk about what the show is and what Assassination Classroom is. So if I were to kind of sum it up in a relatively concise manner, Assassination Classroom is a show wherein an alien. I'm going to call him an alien. I think he's technically from Earth, although maybe that's spoilery. I don't know because I'm not sure because I think that none of the characters are sure as far as I watched. But he's a yellow, like super powerful alien guy who blew up the moon or blew a large hole in the moon, and has now told the Earth government that he is going to blow up Earth in I think 1 year, unless they can of course assassinate him. And so the only thing he wants to do in the year before he blows up the Earth is teach Japan's Class 3E in this special school for like underperforming kids. And so the kids now in the class have been kind of drafted by the government to try to assassinate this character who they call,
Koro Sensei?
Koro Sensei? Yeah, they call him Koro Sensei. And so Koro Sensei, he's super powerful and he can fly at Mach 20 and he's like super fast, and so he's a super powerful alien that can blow up the world. Now all the kids in the remedial classroom have to assassinate him, and of course the shtick of the shtick of the show is that he might be trying to blow up the Earth in 1 year, but he is a really good teacher who is helping all of these students learn valuable life lessons. And it's supposed to be very heartwarming, and that is the plot of the story.
Yes.
Would you say that's pretty accurate, relatively on point?
Yeah. That's really on point, especially because it doesn't give spoilers, so yeah. Definitely.
Although, again, I didn't watch all 24 episodes, or is it 20, 25 episodes? 20, whatever.
Well, it's a lot because I think is it 25 a season and there are 2 seasons?
I think that sounds about right.
Yeah.
But okay, so I'm gonna throw out my my thoughts at this show. I thought it was interesting. I thought it did have some good humor in it. I thought it had some clever humor in it. Ultimately, for the first half of the thing, I thought it was really boring because I felt like not a whole lot was happening in the story. It was a bunch of kids who were having their class.
I think. So I think they do most of the character development in the like second half.
That's fair, and maybe that's it. Maybe you really have to go through the entire first season.
I also do think that one of the most interesting episodes of the first half was the like they leave. They go on like a class trip, and it takes them out of the environment that they were previously in and puts them in a new environment. And I think because I think it gets to some extent it can be a little samey when they're in the classroom.
Right. Yeah.
A lot.
No.
Especially because as characters become more developed, everything becomes more interesting. Even if the scene wouldn't otherwise be very interesting, having a bunch of developed characters in it makes it interesting.
Yeah.
So to some extent, you have this issue of like, if the more you develop the characters, the better everything is, even if it's not got much going on. So before characters are developed, the same scenes are less interesting.
No,
I don't know if I'm saying that well. Because you're more invested once they're developed, so you care more about everything that's happening.
See, I disagree with that. I
Okay.
felt like it grabbed me because I wanted to know the question. Like, why? Why is he a teacher? Why does he care?
Right.
Why is he giving him the opportunity to kill him? And so those questions kind of made me invested.
I don't think they explore that though in the. I don't think they explore those questions though in the.
I know, which bothered me.
Right. Yeah. So and that's an interesting thing because I feel like those are things that they very lightly touch on a few times where we see this little flashback about the past and this woman who's dying who made a promise to, or like he made a promise to, and there's some hinting at like where he might have come from, but we never really go into it, and that's. That mystery of why he is doing this is it's a major part of like what the story is because he's very strange. He's a big yellow alien with tentacles that wants to blow up the Earth, and he wants to teach the remedial class 3E. It doesn't make any sense, and I think kind of the point of his character, or one of the shticks of his character is that he doesn't make sense, or maybe that's not the right way to put it. He is ostensibly like a horrible alien that is going to destroy all humanity, but he's like a really nice guy and he's a really great teacher, and he wants people to, the kids to be the best they can be. Say what?
Like, his favorite torture is to groom people.
Right. Yeah. So he is a character that is. Maybe it's not that he doesn't make sense, but it's that he is. I don't know what's a good phrase for that. He is not what you expect.
In an odd way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Something else they also make very, very clear is that his like funny, lighthearted, comical side is very much like a front that he puts on.
Right. No, totally.
Yeah,
it's interesting because I don't know. I think it might be. I think there's parts of it where he does that as a front, but I do think.
Oh, absolutely.
That's kind of how he is, though.
Yeah.
Or do you think he's just trying to keep his promise to the person and be that person, be that character?
I think he's very invested on being a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the biggest takeaway from like the first part of the season is like, okay, he really wants to teach the kids who are having issues.
Right.
Which to me sounds like he doesn't want to hurt humanity, even if he's this crazy powerful.
Yeah, it's very self-evidently like his stated goal to blow up the Earth.
Right.
Doesn't line up with anything else that he's doing. He's like, I would like to blow up the Earth whilst I nurture its future.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly.
Yeah, that's.
So okay, so
Which
get to that.
I feel like sets us up for the rest of it. I actually really like that setup because I feel like the audience starts questioning, and anytime you can get your audience to think or question or like, why are they doing this? What are the motives? Then it creates an investment later.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah, I think the main thing they do in the first half is it was stated in chat that they build the like trust bond between the students and him, because they pick like they have the AI girl, they develop the AI girl, they develop the redhead, and I think there's like one or two characters other than that they do a little bit of focus on, that they have like an episode for, but mostly it's like getting everyone in the class to like care about him. I have a question. When
Yeah.
do they develop the protagonist? The
Definitely.
like
A little bit at the beginning.
Yeah.
they do a little bit. Nagisa.
Nagisa.
Yeah.
Also,
What do
this
you
is
think?
also there's a lot of characters in this show because there's literally a classroom of characters.
Yeah.
There's probably, what do you think, like maybe like 12 characters, 12 major characters, something like that.
Oh gosh, I don't know how many.
Are in his class.
Yeah, because it's a lot. It's a lot in his class.
Yeah, and that's just the students. Like, and we're talking
Right.
about. There's also obviously the teacher. There's the Secret Service guy. There's the assassin
He has
chick.
26 students.
26.
Helen, when do they develop Nagisa?
I feel like towards the end of the season.
Towards the end of
Yeah,
the
that's right.
season?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they sparse on it, like, so.
Yeah,
it's
there's a
kind
little
of
bit.
from Nagisa's point of view, almost.
Well, they narrate constantly from Nagisa's point of view.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Holy crap! There is so much narration, especially from Nagisa, especially in the first like 5 episodes, and it goes after that. But there is so much exposition in the show, it like hurts me every time it happens. Every time it happens, like, oh my god!
I knew you were
And
gonna
then
say that.
it kept happening. One of the things that kept happening over and over is, let me see. And you can, if you watch it, you'll see this. The episode happens. So the characters will meet somebody, and that person will come in, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to kill the teacher. I want to do. I'm going to assassinate the alien, and I'm going to win all the money or whatever." And then they'll try, and they'll fail, and the teacher will like try to better them, and then he'll better them, and they'll be like, "Oh wow, I didn't realize this." And then is it Nagisa? Is that what her name is?
Nagisa.
Nagisa? Will end the episode being like, "Gee, it really seems like that student learned that this and this and this," and she'll recap the lessons they learned, and wow, our teacher's really impressive. Even though he's an alien that's going to blow up the Earth, he really seems to, care about everything.
Well, it's they treat the narration the way that someone's programming who doesn't understand comments treats comments. Right. When they're like, x equals 32, I'll insert a comment here saying that this line sets x to 32. It's like,
that was a niche
the
reference,
comment's
by
not.
the way.
It's not helpful as a comment if it just restates what the code does.
Right.
It needs to state the function.
Because that's totally it happens.
So,
it happens so much. Something will happen,
so I think,
and then one of the characters will be like, "Oh my gosh, this just happened." I watched the episode.
Nagisa's descriptions really are largely recap.
Yeah, and the recap directly after it happens, and there were points where I was just like, "Oh my god, Nagisa, shut up! I know, I just watched it. I don't need to hear about what happened." But yeah, so that happened a whole bunch, and I was mildly put off by it. But one thing, okay, so as a very positive note, I will say a lot of the humor in this was very funny. I think that there's some now that being said, a lot of the humor it is character humor,
Right.
There's a couple of kind of punny kind of things that happen, but a lot of it's character humor, and
Mhm.
it works because you kind of they kind of round out the main character. Actually, let me real quick just break that down a little bit. When I say character humor, so if you were to have like a joke, like a character were to do something like or like slip on a pineapple or hit a wall or fall off something, that it might be a joke, or if something like that were to happen. Character humor is when a character does something that is very, very indicative of the character. So like, let me think. What's a good example of a character humor in this particular anime?
Anything Koro Sensei does.
Anything Koro Sensei does. So it might like it's funny that he would like fly off to like France to go get ice cream or something and fly back, and then one of the characters like he drops his ice cream and he says I flew all the way, I went to France to get that. And it's funny because that's ridiculous that he went to France, but that is exactly something he would do because he does that kind of stuff. Maybe that's a weird example, but character humor is
France or Italy?
Italy. I think for that particular thing he went to Italy.
Yeah.
But it's funny because it is something the character would do. Is character humor.
And he's also, yeah. It's also very funny that like he's a superhuman being
Right.
that's like still on the teacher salary.
Right. Exactly.
Gotta save money this month.
He's a superhuman being who is going to destroy the Earth in 1 year, and he ran out of money because his teacher salary is all he's making. That's very
I like
funny.
how he doesn't steal anything. Like he's
Yeah, like
moral.
Exactly, but because that's
Yeah.
that's who he is. Like he could
Yeah.
probably just like break into a bank and steal all the money or do whatever. He's going to
Yeah.
destroy the Earth.
He literally can go 20. What is it? 20
Mach 20.
Mach 20.
I like they just threw out that number.
knots, whatever.
20 knots. That's way slower than Mach 20.
I know. It's a joke because I can't think of a word.
And that was character humor. But okay, so that was something that I enjoyed. There's a lot of good humor in this. Yeah, I don't think it always connects, and I think some of it can be maybe a little bit immature.
I also think that some of the humor they do in the first like 2 or 3 episodes doesn't connect fully because it feels like it was written as if we were like 5 or 6 episodes in, as if we were more comfortable with the characters than we are.
Right.
So it feels like.
I'm okay with that though. 'cause
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
fair.
like
That's fair.
It settled with me more. Like I was able to like, okay, here we are. Like we're diving into it.
Right.
Like this is what it is. And so it kind of grounded it for me because I felt like we didn't have all this other crap.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Another thing that I will, and actually I'll ask your guys' opinions on this. What did you think of the music and or credits?
So I was torn on the intro. There were parts of the intro I found really fun and funny. Their ranking kind of like was like okay,
Right.
but it would show their ranking and it would sit way too long on that screen.
I hated the
I
intro.
think-
There were parts I liked. There were parts I
That's
did
fair.
not like.
That's fair. Bad
And
ladies.
I didn't mind the music. The music
Yeah.
itself
Yeah.
was fine.
Sure, yeah,
I
totally.
felt like there was a lot they could have done, and the intro took way too freaking long.
I didn't hate the intro, but I do think that the intro was thematically inconsistent with the show.
Yeah.
I think it was
I agree.
it was much more like happy and like upbeat in a way that it didn't feel the same as like the show.
Yeah, that's fair. That is very fair. I
Yeah.
think that's very true. It was much more
Conflicting.
weird and happy. I thought it was horrible. I thought it was a horrible intro. I thought it was uninteresting. The kids were jumping the whole time. There were a couple little shots. It didn't make any sense. It didn't say anything. It was just like, I don't know. Here's an intro. They jump. Whee! God, it was awful. I skipped it every single time. After I watched it twice, I was like, nope, never again.
I was unimpressed with the ending. I will say that. Like the ending, thematically, it was just kind of like, okay.
With the ending of the intro or this ending of the show?
Ending of the show. So,
oh, okay. When you say ending,
ending,
do you mean the second
Wait,
season
after
ending?
credits?
The credits, like
After credits.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see.
What
Oh,
were
that's
the
fair.
after credits? I
I feel
don't
like they were
remember.
aren't they kind of sad sounding?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like a painting almost.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
not memorable.
Yeah, totally not memorable. Didn't get into it. Yeah, skipped it a couple times, or skipped it pretty much every time. Yeah, which is a shame. Ending credits are a thing that you can add a lot to your show with.
I agree.
Well, there's
Especially
actually
if they develop from show to show.
Right. No,
I
totally.
love that. Like
Well,
I'm like, oh, there's something new in the credits.
There was this, yeah, right. There was a show, and I can't remember what it was. It was a science fiction. It's like an old-timey science fiction anime. Me and Bad had watched, and I remember the show itself was like meh, but the ending credits, which were tonally completely different than the show, the ending credits were really good. Other than the fact that they did not match the tone of the show at all.
I mean, I kind of excuse ending credits, like if the ending credits are the worst thing ever, I'll just kind of overlook it most of the time because
they can kind of do what they want.
Sometimes people just put up a picture of like sexy anime girls and they're like, bam, ending credits.
Ending
like,
credits. I
sure.
will say, on a scale of 1 to 10, both of the credits were easily a 1. Didn't like them, and I guess I'd compare them. If they're a 1, then I'd say like Konosuba is a 10.
Konosuba, yeah, I was actually thinking that is like Konosuba is a show that nails its like opening credits with the feel of the show really well.
So, okay, so tell me, how about Helen? Helen, what do you think is the if you had to pick something, what do you think is the strongest aspect of this show? Of Assassination Classroom.
Motivation. The motivation.
That's the strongest one?
I feel like it is. Because, like, by the end of the series, like, by the end of season 1 anyway, like, I feel like it's very clear and cut. Like, he wants to be a teacher. He's gonna end the world. The kids are there to try and kill him and learn.
Right.
Everything's very cut.
Okay.
Like
that's fair.
I think
interesting.
I think in the first half of the first season, Kurosama carries the show. He's the strongest part of it by far.
Okay, yeah. I see what you're saying. I was on a different track.
That's fair.
I mean, it's not like there's a specific way that this question could be answered, because I could have been like, yeah.
So it's because it's funny if I were to pick a strongest point of the show, I definitely wouldn't choose motivation. I think if my off the cuff answer for like weakest point of the show would have probably have been motivation, but I think maybe this may be a semantic thing, because I think that the characters, they have motivation. And now, that being said, Kuro Sensei, his motivation is, I guess initially it's a little bit nebulous, or you kind of are not sure what it is, and that's kind of the mystery. He's going to blow up the Earth, but he wants to teach this remedial class. Why? And so you're not sure. So, and you can go ahead and spoil this. For me, I don't know, Bad, do you plan on watching this show anymore?
I watched it way back.
You watched it way back?
But I don't remember
so
it.
I'm gonna ask to be spoiled on the end of the first season. So if you guys are gonna watch the show and you don't want to get spoiled, go ahead and duck out now, because we're gonna spoil it. Helen, what happens at the end of the first season?
I'm trying to remember because I watched the whole thing.
That's fair.
The first season. Give me a second.
So you go ahead and look for that. So I one of the things that
I wasn't looking at.
when I say motivation, when I say motivation was really, for me, it felt like a really weak point. It's because I don't know what the teacher's Kuro Sensei's goals are, and I don't know what he is doing or how he is. So you could conceivably say that his goal is to teach these kids and make them into the best students and the best people they can be, and that's
You
great.
mean it?
Or go ahead.
You mean it in a way of like his objective within any
Right.
given
Within any
scenario?
given scene.
Not yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I
So-
think not like an overarching motivation, but like the immediate like
So when I'm talking about character motivation, it's generally speaking, there is a character who wants a thing, and it usually is relatively specific, and they're going to be working towards that every single scene. For him, I'd say his motivation is maybe helping the students, and that is a motivation that is generally kind of clear, but it doesn't make for there's no, okay, I will say this, there is no the antagonist to that motivation might be a troubled student who is disrupting class, and it usually gets cleared up within the episode, or it might be that the principal is a bad guy and he's trying to keep the students down, or it
I
might
will
be,
say the principal's a terrible antagonist.
right. But
Yeah,
so,
no, yeah.
so
He's like, the world is a zero-sum game. If you're on top, it's because you oppressed someone.
It's
We
really-
oppress people here.
yeah.
Like,
So
Oh.
So this was, I think this was the problem for me. So it's not that they did not have motivation; it's that the antagonist to the main characters, their whatever the antagonist was in any given episode, that only lasts for like an episode. There's not an ongoing struggle that I can see.
Yeah, there's
or
not
that I
an
saw.
not an overarching
Right, yeah.
antagonistic force.
And so it just felt like
Well,
it was kind of an
there-
episode, monster of the week kind of thing, and
They-
there was never anything, at the end
They-
of the road.
So they do have like they make a point in a few episodes of this, like there's kind of a theme that like the antagonistic force they're fighting against is the status quo.
Right, and that's a very boring bad guy.
It's not a great antagonist.
It's not a good antagonist. So I think so how and that's kind of what I mean. I feel like when I say motivation was for me the weakest point of the show, it's not that they don't have it or it's not clear.
Right.
It's that there's not really any battle. Like there are not different people with different motivations coming into conflict with one another.
Yeah,
and
conflicting motivations.
If you were to say something like,
Not
for instance,
like, yeah.
and if you were to say
Go
something,
ahead.
yeah. So like in what is it? Made in Abyss. If we're talking about Made in Abyss, the two main characters are trying to go get to the bottom of the abyss, and along the way, for 3 or 4 episodes, they run into Ozen, the unmovable sovereign.
That was like 10 episodes.
Was it like 10 episodes?
Yeah.
It was
a lot.
right, and she was the
Like,
antagonist.
I really enjoyed all of it,
Right.
but it like
Yeah, and
kind of drug on a little bit.
no, that's fair. And the abyss itself is, of course, trying to keep them from getting to their objective, and it's usually doing a really effective job. And then, of course, you have the guy that we don't really know too much about unless you read the manga, who is the scientist guy, the bad guy, who is also another antagonist. You have a series of antagonists along the way. They usually last more than one episode. They usually last a little while. And the motivation for the main characters, it's the same motivation, and it's very specific, and they are always moving towards it in every scene. Whereas in the classroom setting of Assassination Classroom, the character is kind of passively letting this happen. He's a teacher. He sits in the class and he teaches, and he tries to, do the best he can. But there's nothing that, with the exception of, like, again, the trouble student that comes in here and the assassin person that comes in here, there's nothing that's
Yeah,
really
I mean, so
coming into conflict with that motivation.
yeah, it's. I will say also they in the first half they introduced 2 like new students to the classroom that create conflict, and one of them is the red-headed student whose name escapes me at this moment, and
Yeah.
the other is someone claiming to be Kura Sensei's brother,
Right.
but because he has like head tentacles.
Of course.
And both of them are kind of like sociopath characters.
Right.
And so, as antagonistic forces, the reason they're like they kind of represent sociopaths, and it's like
Right.
it's not an interesting conflict to be like, we oppose the evil that is sociopaths, because that's a relatable issue.
Well, and this is also here's a
Admittedly, I think the redhead character they develop, and he gets interesting at the end of his at the end of his episode, because he's not really interesting like for the first half.
Troa filled me in.
Oh, did he? He filled you in. What did he fill you in on?
When I stepped away, what you guys were talking about.
Oh, I see. That's. I wish I had a Troa. I'd put him over there.
I mean, you can buy one.
You tell Troa he should ask for a raise.
You should. He makes the money too. Oh my god.
But okay, so
I would say that is a consequence of writing the story to be a comedy, though, more than a narrative. Is you end up because you know, like Blazing Saddles. I love Blazing Saddles. That's a hilarious movie.
It's hysterical.
It is not very. It's really weak as a narrative.
It is.
It is maybe a terrible narrative.
It's
hilariously funny.
Yeah.
But like
it's loose. It's very loose.
So I think comedy's a weird genre because comedy
is hard. Comedy is difficult.
Yes, it's difficult, and it's almost not like a genre of stories, because you could make a comedy without there being a narrative.
Yeah.
And you could make it work and make people enjoy it. So comedy's really weird because it doesn't need the narrative, and so sometimes I think when things are designed to be comedy,
so
they can end up with less narrative as the result.
Yeah, this is interesting because I feel the same way about comedy that I do about like romance. It's that I don't think that I'll explain.
I'm waiting.
They're both hysterical. So I don't think that comedy in itself, and I also don't think that romance in itself are things that are they're not strong foundational things to build a story on. I think they're good. They can be wonderful parts of a story, and they can be valuable and large parts of a story. But like, for instance, I think a movie that's incredibly funny is Guardians of the Galaxy, and it is not a comedy. It is a story that has
comedy.
Yeah, it has a ton of comedy in it, and it's a stronger movie because it's a science fiction big epic story packed full of comedy.
This is something that's funny about. I'm going to draw attention to this example because I think it's funny because it's the opposite.
Right.
The Orville is a pretty good show that a lot of people get frustrated with because they're like, it's supposed to be a comedy, and there's not, and it's actually not a comedy.
Right.
It's just like comedy's a small part of it.
Right. But let me see. Let's.
I had a really hard time with that one.
Yeah.
So let's talk
about
the
Orville.
I liked it later. Just like the first few episodes,
I think
were really hard.
For me, the no, we're talking about the Orville.
I was gonna say anime,
like,
Noah.
Anime. Like I'm not finished.
For me, I thought it got less interesting near the end of the first season, but when I picked up the second season and started watching, I was like, this is good. This is like Star Trek, and we don't have Star Trek anymore. We have Star Trek Discovery, which is known as STD, which is a good. That basically sums up the show. Don't watch it. You don't want to watch STDs.
You just offended a lot of Star Trek Discovery fans.
Oh my goodness.
They named it that. They said the Klingons are based on Trump supporters. Don't watch it.
Just don't bring politics into your TV show.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Anyways, so anime. Anime. So yeah, so I think that things like, for instance, I think another good example that is an anime example is Cowboy Bebop. There is
I
romance.
love that.
It's a great show.
Classic.
Yeah, romance is an important part of that show. I think it's an important part for the main character because he has a struggle with this. He has a struggle with maybe relationships, maybe not necessarily romance, but it is a part of the show that is stronger. It's stronger because it's a part of the show. It's not
So-
obviously what it's based
So
on.
I would like to add in something that I was saying when we did Made in Abyss.
Right.
That I think is very important is one of the main strengths of Made in Abyss is the range of human expression that it holds, because it's got comedy and it's got like super dark, painful tragedy, and having
Right.
a broad range of human expression makes it that much more engaging and endearing.
No, that's true. That is true. A wider scope is more interesting.
Yeah, and you're
or generally, as a general. Helen, you have thoughts?
My brain is just semantically like.
I know, right?
Because, like, I mean, it really is a huge part of the show, but I'm, like, remembering other parts. I'm like, this is, and that is. And I'm
Right.
like, wait.
No, totally.
what?
Well, and so
I'm
I think
just kind of getting lost in my own head right now.
it's a good place to be. This is what the internet is like. So
I feel like if you do.
So ultimately, as we relate that back to Assassination Classroom, how did we get off on this tangent again? I can't even remember.
They named it
Comedy and did
STD.
the comedy very
No.
well. Is how we got to it.
Which say that again?
We got to it because you were discussing how they had it. The
Oh yeah,
main center was comedy,
it is. It is very much
and it wasn't executed well.
Yeah, it
I
has
do
a lot-
love comedies. I will also state I
I might be
love
paraphrasing.
comedies.
No,
I
but
don't
also some of the best comedies are not like they have their
Well-
own genre, you know. But it's
Yes.
not not
Mhm.
comedy. So I think there is a lot of good humor in it. I think that if the story was more focused, I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase this, because it's not necessarily
I
that it's
think
not focused. It's just that there is. If I were to like just say how it feels, I would say it feels like there's nothing happening. It feels like every episode they're sitting in the classroom, some little thing happens, the teacher fixes it, and then they move on to the next episode. And that's every episode.
Well, I think they have like maybe 4 episodes
Right.
that do like proper character development in the
that's
first half.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my question.
Yes.
Would it make this problem better? Would it fix it or come close to fixing it if there was a really good, consistent antagonist that showed up throughout the show?
I mean, a good antagonist, like
like single antagonist or
Yeah, like-
antagonistic something.
yeah, because really,
The
Go ahead.
redhead is like the strongest to
Yeah.
me, at least for the episode that
For
he
the
shows up
episode
in.
that he was in, right? And that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is that he's in for
Yeah,
an episode.
well, it's interesting because any sort of antagonistic force is just for an episode.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem
Right.
like any antagonist will last longer than an episode. And
Right.
some of the antagonists, they're not really even antagonists, right? There's like Red Eye. It's funny they call him Red Eye even though his eye isn't red.
Right.
He's not even really an antagonist, but
He-
he's kind
yeah.
of like he is the closest thing to an antagonist for the
Right.
moment when he's there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a. I think that is the problem. I think for me is that there is never any bad guy or antagonist that lasts more than an episode, and it all feels very small in the scope. So it feels like
Well,
it's
and I
kind of
think
not going
The
anywhere.
point of it, though, is that the teacher is the antagonist.
Right, and that is fair. The teacher. Well, and this is an interesting because
Sort of.
I also
Well,
I
They
I'm
blur
going to
that
disagree with
line.
this.
okay. Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with this
Yeah.
because I think that Kurosama
Mhm.
is the ideal.
Right.
he is like a perfect being who no one wouldn't want to be like Kurosama, because he's like the perfect teacher and he works hard and he does all the things and everyone loves and respects him and he teaches valuable lessons at the end of the day. I would say he can't be the antagonist because he's basically the opposite. He's basically the ideal, like the thing everyone wants to be, as opposed to being the force which works against.
Right. Well, and also I will say that the antagonist or the protagonist, the bad guy who wants to blow up the world can be the protagonist. It doesn't have to be someone who is like trying to do bad things. The protagonist can be
right.
There are novels or books where the protagonist is like Dexter, for instance. You know, the protagonist is a serial killer. You know.
Yeah, but he's still killing bad people.
Well, that's fair, but he's also a serial killer.
So I have a question, Helen.
Yeah.
What is, because you watched the rest of it and it's fresh in your mind, what is the strongest antagonist in the show? Who is the strongest antagonist in the show?
The other being.
Okay, I mean as in like the best antagonist, not necessarily the strongest in terms of power.
Oh, I see what you mean. I feel like I'm with you guys. There wasn't like a strong one that stood out, you know?
Right.
Huh? Troa has something to say. Nagisa.
Oh. Nagisa?
Nagisa is the antagonist? You think so?
Okay.
It's not Nagisa.
Which episodes are they? That's like the end of season 1 is Nagisa's arc?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna put this out there. I think it's Space Dandy is purely episodic, where none of the consequences from any episode carry over to the next one.
Really? That's too bad.
And it's also a comedy, and it's a very funny comedy.
Right, sure.
But I want to throw this out there. What do you guys think of shows that focus so heavily on the single episode and neglect an overarching
Depends on the show and the execution. It can have totally nothing to do with the other episodes and not be canon, and I'm okay with it. But I cannot stand, like, Little Witch Academia. I still have issues with that show.
I feel like you bring it up all the time. God, I just hate Little Witch Academia.
Like,
you know what?
I wanted it to be good. I wanted.
That's true.
I didn't even care
I
if
did
it
too.
connected, but the world. There's got to be rules for the world.
Right.
So this
and I
is.
felt like it threw world rules out the window every episode.
So you know what my least favorite filler episode is? It's the dream episode. You know, when you're watching like any show that has filler episodes anywhere, right?
Yeah.
It's the episode where they're like, it's a dream, none of this happened. Or like this is a time travel episode, and I love time travel, but at the end they're like, we won't remember this. Boop, episode end. It's like,
this was terrible.
Why?
This didn't improve anything.
You just detached it from the overarching narrative, and it hurts me.
Yeah.
Because it has a sense of like, the writer saying this didn't matter, is what it feels like at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I'm referring to with like, world things. So if something doesn't matter, but it mattered in another episode, like that's irritating to me. Because it's like, okay, so that didn't matter, like, then why the fuck did I watch it? Sorry, excuse my language, but like,
pardon.
Hell. So, yeah, but this show, I didn't feel like that did that to us.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So I think I drew attention to Space Dandy because I thought Space Dandy was the extreme of that, right? That's the like most you can prioritize the episode at the expense of the greater arc. But yeah, I do feel like they it's interesting. It's almost like this is something that's done in like kids shows sometimes, because you're like, they're not gonna remember for the overarching narrative. Let's make it so it's a package deal. They get like a little package, and the next time we package the next episode,
Yeah.
and then we throw in some like dad jokes for the parents.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
That's exactly how those go.
but so we're getting up on 54 minutes right now. So let me real quick. Let's just do a quick recap of our thoughts about this show. My thoughts are, generally speaking, I thought it was overall is boring. It had a lot of good points. Some of the comedy was funny. Some of the jokes were very funny. I will say it was at times very charming to see the students improve and be moved to be better people, and that's charming. That's nice. I liked that. It's fun to see that kind of thing. Overall, it was very boring. I wish there had been a cohesive threat throughout the whole thing. I thought they could have done more with that, and I just got really bored. Most of the episodes, they were kind of one shots. That's my thoughts. Hallen?
I really liked it. I agree with a lot of the criticisms that we've had.
Sure.
But I also loved. I never felt bored.
Right.
Like
that's fair.
I couldn't. I felt like this is kind of fun and.
Right. Yeah. No. Totally.
Okay, here we go. And what's he gonna do next? Because he's like this alien creature who can do all kinds of things. And.
Right.
I was entertained.
Totally.
I really liked episode to episode. There was nothing that grated on my nerves.
Mm-hmm. Except for the intro.
I've had, at the ending. But there was nothing that truly called out oh man, they're not following their objective. Meh. It didn't bother me.
Right.
It was fair. I'm okay with this.
Yeah, that's fair.
There have been other shows. There was one recently, but I think I purposefully put those shows out of my head because I'm like, I don't like that.
yeah. No, totally. Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I really liked, I felt like I could put that on in the background.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
I felt like the job was really well done.
Yeah.
I liked all of the voice actors. There wasn't a single voice actor in there that I was like, ugh.
So I think I would 100% agree with that. I think that is definitely one I'd throw on my side monitor and have going while I did something else.
I would. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also think comedies do really well on the side monitor, and I think with Assassination Classroom, because it takes a while for it to get to developing the characters, maybe you watch the first half on your side monitor, and then as characters get more developed, you
totally.
I'm gonna switch. Let's go into the main monitor
and
now.
I could definitely see it. Getting better and better as it goes on.
And
maybe they find more of a direction for me.
That's also it's a good way to watch. It's a good way to watch shows you're not sure about too, because if they end up being really good, you just kind of stop what you're doing and you focus on them.
Yeah, no, totally. Did you have any particular final thoughts, Bad?
I think the messaging was a little spotty, but that's not really a writing thing. That's more like a values thing.
Yeah, for sure.
So I disagree because you can have different values and express them. Even your values could be values that I disagree with, but if you're a good writer, you could express them in a way that is good.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, for example, I will present two values, one I dislike and one I like.
Okay.
They do the thing with the principal episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, life is a zero-sum game.
Right.
The winners are on top, and the losers are on bottom, and you can only be above the middle if you exploit someone and take advantage of them. And they suggest in some other episodes that that's actually the way that the world is, that it's not just the villain seeing it that way.
Right.
And that's a really nasty value to look at the world as a zero-sum game is really bad. But then in a different episode they express a value of they talk about people taking the easy way out. And the students neglecting their future because they're trying to take the easy way out and kill Kuro Sensei, even though it's an impossible task. And that's a good kind of value to impart.
Right. Interesting. And so that gets into really that's kind of
that's
you know that's kind of
Well,
it's
deeper
not
learning
a.
stuff.
I don't think it's. I
values
don't
are
think.
technically super objectives for your life. I mean,
Super object. Yeah, and it's. Yeah, and it's
like
there's
the
a.
overarching wants.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
why do we want to live? And we follow this super objective, and
Yeah.
we face things that we come in contact with, whether
And
it
that's
helps us or hurts us.
and that's why I don't like the zero sum value in there, because that's like, if that is an objective for if you're basing your actions off of that, and that is guiding your life, then
I can
your
see
life is guided by like a sense that you can't be happy unless someone else is miserable.
right.
And that and so yeah, I think
And
there
if
were
he
Yeah.
some good
followed,
values and
if
some
he followed
questionable
that
values.
objective, then he would have come into way more conflict. And so that didn't happen. So it's almost
So
like his value didn't make sense.
yeah,
Like when you
so
put it like that.
it's
Like when I'm
so the thing they're
personally,
doing there is they're suggesting in the show that that is the status quo. That like people being on top and oppressing the people beneath them is kind of status quo,
yeah.
and it's not heavily pushed, but it's slightly pushed at moments,
Right.
that Kuro Sensei is not in favor of that, and that he thinks that he maybe still believes in this zero sum game that is life,
Right.
but he's opposed to it, even though I think the entire value system doesn't make sense.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Anyway, so I think, yeah, I'm just saying I think some of the values they proposed are good, like the don't take the easy way out and try to achieve an impossible objective, like
Right.
kill Koro Sensei, right? It's like the gambling approach, rather than putting in hard work and time and building up
Right.
yourself and increasing your own value. Because that was a really good value that they put in later
Yeah,
on.
no, totally. And that's a, that was a
That makes way more sense. I was thinking of it different.
yeah, no, for sure. So
Well, it is true that like these basic values like this completely guide the way characters behave, and they are very important to character building. Is putting in values. That was a criticism I had of Dorohedoro, was that the characters who didn't seem to have emotions and didn't seem to have moral codes didn't have values, and the values make them interesting characters.
yeah. So interesting. So I think that's pretty all interesting things overall. Anybody you'd recommend this show to?
Cam.
Who?
Cam Chaos God. It should be on our stream still.
Oh, is he? Okay. you
He
hear that?
used to
Watch this
It
anime.
was our old roommate. He would watch anime with us all the time.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Side monitor anime. I'd recommend it to somebody who just wants something kind of funny to watch.
I think comedy's very good for that.
I would recommend this as a first anime if you're not like really in the field.
Okay.
I'm gonna agree with that, because it
Right.
definitely doesn't go as heavily into like the uncomfortable anime things that sometimes
That's
happen.
true. That's true.
Yeah.
They're a couple little moments, but nothing bad. Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, well, I feel like that's kind of covered it. Anybody have any last final thoughts? Oh, let's talk real quick about the anime for next time.
Oh,
What are we gonna be watching?
You have the list, right?
I have a list. I am from the list going to say I haven't seen Decadence,
Okay.
and from what I've heard, it might be something that Moon would enjoy.
Ooh,
What's
Decadence. That sounds like something I would enjoy.
I've
Cool.
never seen it either, so
Oh dear.
That
So
would
wait,
be
have you
good.
seen that?
Space Dandy is on that list, but
I haven't seen that either. Sam says that's really good.
Give me a quick pitch of Decadence.
Huh?
Have you seen it?
No, I've not seen it.
Okay, good.
It's a mobile city post-apocalypse.
Okay.
Big mobile city moving across the world whilst ugly CG monsters attack it. And like, I mean ugly, like maybe the CG's a little ugly and not the
Ooh.
monsters are
Yeah.
ugly.
Ooh, okay, that's fair.
But inside the city, the protagonist is like a mechanic, and they want to fight the monsters or something, and they're machines.
That kind of sounds fun.
It's not
I like
finished
that.
yet.
I like that a lot. Okay, we'll do that. Decadence.
Episode 10 comes out when? On the 9th. So it's not finished.
What's coming out on the 9th?
The next episode of Decadence.
Oh,
it's not finished.
It's not finished. Oh no. Yeah. So how many episodes are out?
9.
9. How many episodes are gonna be? 12.
Yeah, I mean...
It might be 12 or 24. It just depends.
Oh.
I mean, we're like halfway, so...
Yeah, halfway is a good stopping point anyway.
Okay, that's fair. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do Decadence. So, we were talking about we are going to be just changing our schedule. For anybody who's curious, we're going to be doing the podcast bi-monthly. So we'll be doing it every 2 weeks. We'll be doing an episode.
And we might change our name by next time, right?
Yes, and we are going to have a new name. And we don't have a new name this time because I lost my phone, or my phone. I didn't lose my phone. My phone broke, and I have 2-factor authentication on my phone, and I cannot change the Twitch channel right now.
That's brutal.
2-factor.
I was really frustrated. I have a new phone coming. It's going to be great, but I don't have it right now. All right. So that means the 19th of September we're going to be doing Decadence. Is what we're going to be talking about. So you can join us Saturday, the 9th, or the 19th rather. And we are happy to have you here. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you. Have a great day, guys.
Goodbye. Bye.